Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast, where we aim to inspire and motivate people to never give up on themselves or their dreams. We will chat with highly successful people from all walks of life and discuss what motivates and drives them to successfully attack life head on and never give up. Welcome to episode number 90 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Wirth, and today's theme of the day is youth. Our quote of the day comes to us from Nelson Mandela. The youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. I'm eager to bring you today's episode. Our guest is a young gentleman by the name of David Durham that is doing some pretty neat things in and around the coaching business. Although I've only known David for a couple of months, he is definitely a go-getter, and he's found his niche working with new businesses. David also defines success as something you can control every single day. It's a pretty simple concept to understand, but the importance of it is invaluable. I hope you enjoy today's episode. David, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Chris. Glad to be here.
I appreciate it. So the first question we ask everybody is, are you ready to make it happen today?
Absolutely. I am ready to make it happen. Let's go to work.
The number one objective of our show, David, is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never give up. I was curious if you had either a story about perseverance or perhaps a challenging time that tested you, but you kept on going and you didn't quit.
Yeah, that's a great question. And growing up for me, I always grew up as that kid as the center of attention and not necessarily for a good thing, right? I was always getting picked on, never really good enough to have my own friends or keep friends. The older brother's friends were the ones that protected me. I could never get the girl. And there was even a sport that my parents would spend $10,000s of dollars, investing in me every single year that I ended up walking away from because I cared way too much about what people thought about me. And I just had so much insecurity, which always comes up this thought that I wasn't good enough, that I'm not good enough to be who I wanted to be. I'm not good enough for friendships, to get the girl or have the relationships. So a part of me that didn't feel good enough when I was younger really wanted to have success and to show people like, hey, I could do it. And, fast forward now, I realize that insecurity, it's not necessarily, it shouldn't be the fueling of that car, right? That shouldn't be the fuel for why I'm doing what I'm doing, which I've broken through that through coaching. But that was a part of why I am the way I am. So I was 19 years old. I got into real estate at 19 years old. And being that young, that's pretty much telling people, put your biggest financial investment in my hands, right? Brand new to the business. And everybody doubted me. And even when I hopped into my coaching business, which is what I'm doing now, helping self-employed entrepreneurs that have been in less than 5 years, people would always say, well, David, you had some great success in real estate, but you're so young. Who would want to coach with you? So they'd even say, David, you can always go back to real estate. And so that was just, for me, no one really has believed in me too much. I've had my dad, who's been my number one fan, and people around me, but I've had to cut a lot of relationships out just because not everybody is going to believe in you, right?
What you talk about is something that's interesting is the age component, and not that you need to be in business for 10, 20, 30 years, but I think to your comment about being 19 and getting the real estate business, it's a very big conversation to have with a prospective client of, again, as you mentioned, the largest financial transaction. And whether you're 19, 29, 39, 49, it's a big thing. And I think the challenge you had and you discuss leads me into something that I think is really interesting that I wanted to touch on for a minute is a lot of people in business have either coaches or mentors or managers or bosses that have helped them, whether it's giving specific advice or you have to do this or just being an ear or being someone that they can bounce ideas back and forth. But what you focus on, and having known you now for a few months, is you focus on businesses that are under those 5 years. And I think it's a really unique market. If you don't mind me asking, how did you find your niche per se, or how did you identify that this is an area that you felt A, you offered a real amount of service, and B, you could be successful in it?
Yeah, I'd really like to share why I'm even coaching in the first place. And so that came from real estate. I had built a 6-figure business my first year in real estate. I was 19, 20 years old, super excited. And so I was asked to speak and train with older agents in different offices. And in doing that, they would come up and say, wow, David, that was so impactful. That was so inspiring. And there was this fire that lit up inside of me. that was my calling. Helping someone buy or sell a home, it just wasn't the same. The only difference was the paycheck. So I had the question, what was I going to do? Was I going to stay in this business that I've had so much success in, or was I going to follow my passion and really my calling, my purpose for why I'm doing what I'm doing? And so I decided to go all in, and here I am. It's been about almost a year now helping self-employed entrepreneurs. And the reason why I help individuals less than 5 years is because I know the struggles that they go through. Being young in a business, I get it. Being in less than 5 years, a lot of times it's the clarity, it's the strategy, it's the consistency. But more times than not, it's the fear of taking massive action. Because when I was in real estate and even coaching now, doing what I'm doing, the number one reason why I've had some great accomplishments at such a young age is from the fact that I'm just willing to take massive action and do whatever it takes. Right? Breaking through the insecurities and breaking through breaking through attaching my identity to any outcomes, being okay with failures, loving failures for what they are and what they can do for me. So I've got so much experience in that field. I've got so much love for self-employed entrepreneurs because the ones that have been in less than 5 years many times won't make it past 5 years. And I know they can, and I believe in them. And so with that being said, that's why I'm so inspired to help them have the business and create the lifestyle that they want and start living more abundantly and living an epic life.
You talk about something which I wanted to mention for a second is taking massive action. I think I had the opportunity to interview Jeff Woods, and he's the host of the very successful podcast, The One Thing. And we talked about something that I actually spoke about at a live event a couple days ago. And if you take if you take the best information, if you take the best knowledge, if you have the best coach and the best mentor, Jeff was talking about if you take little to no action, you're going to yield little to no results. However, if you have average content or average knowledge or an average mentor or boss, but you take massive amounts of action, you're going to be so much more successful. And I think it comes back to one of my all-time favorite books, which is the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, where Grant talks about taking massive amounts of action. And when people are looking to achieve something, whether it's a goal, whether it's a new business, whether it's a financial success defined by a specific number in sales or having a net worth of a certain number, when people don't hit that number or they fall short, what Grant talks about is what they usually do is they usually lower their expectation or they lower their goal. And what Grant is so adamant about is what you need to do actually is take massive amounts of action. You need to increase your output. And I think you touched on that. And just knowing you the few months that I've gotten a chance to know you, I think in some ways, directly or indirectly, is you've found your niche in regards to the entrepreneurs 5 years or younger. And it comes down to something, I don't want to say it's as simplistic, but I think you've put yourself in a great niche of being an expert when it comes to taking massive amounts of action, because that's one of the only thing that's going to allow you to break through to whatever level of success you have. So I appreciate you saying that. So I wanted to segue then into my next question, which is, how do you define success?
That's a great question. I define success as something that I can 100% control each and every single day. One of my good buddies, Caleb Maddox, I actually heard him say this one time and took it to mean something for me. And for me, success, and this is literally something I write down in my journal consistently, is moving forward financially, spiritually, relationally, and for me, emotionally. And in doing that every single day, I can control that. I can control the knowledge I put in my brain. If I hit the gym, watch what I eat, and stay healthy, I can control that. I can control my finances. So as long as I'm moving forward each day, financially, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and then I'm moving forward successfully.
It's interesting that a lot of people that we had on our show have a clear definition of success. And I have to say, having done over 100 interviews at this point, not a single person has identified success as just a monetary number. And now watch, in a week or two, someone's going to come out and I'll have to change my answer. But the reality is I've been extremely fortunate to interview some amazingly successful people from all walks of life. And the best thing that I find is that their definition of success is very different than what I think a lot of people traditionally think success is, which it's, having six-figure income and being able to retire and paying off a house. And don't get me wrong, in any way, shape, or form, I don't want to ever negate someone's goal or dreams, nor do I want to tell them that they can't or shouldn't aim for something. But some of the best definitions about success have been people being able to do what they want, where they want, challenging themselves, growing every day in the 5 areas that you mentioned, or other people have talked about 7 areas. And I just think it's amazing when you literally sit down and get an opportunity to talk with these people, and the amazing guests I've had, just kind of taking a step further. So one of the things that we talk about is personal development. And I was curious if perhaps you've read something recently, or there's a book you'd like to recommend to our listeners.
Oh, there's a million books, right? Right now, I just finished up a book. It's called Essentialism. If you haven't read that one, definitely go check it out. That's just my most recent read that I'm sharing with you guys. And Essentialism is really being an essentialist, right? It's about doing the essentials in the business that actually is going to get you the results that you want and deserve. I think the book that's made the biggest influence and impact on me is Unleash the Giant from Within, and that's with Tony Robbins. And the reason why I love this book so much, it's a personal development piece, but a lot of it's NLP, and a lot of it's growth and controlling how you show up each and every day. How are you letting your emotions run you, or are you running them? And just really having the self-awareness, because when you have that awareness, you can then choose how you want to feel, act, and respond. You can control the thoughts and emotions that are going through you, which then fuel your actions. And so if you can control that, you can show up in a huge way every single day for your business. And when you do that, not only are you showing up that way for your business, but like my idea, like my clients, right? They're showing up in a big way for their kids. They're showing up in a big way for their family, for their relationships outside of work. And so that book on Unleash the Giant, I believe, or Awaken the Giant Within, look it up. It's by Tony Robbins, and that book will, if put to action, like you said earlier, right? There's no value in knowledge. There's value in power with knowledge combined with action. Read that book, put it to action, and you'll change your life.
So David, as we're always looking to add value to our listeners, I was curious if you have either a daily or a morning ritual that you swear by.
Absolutely. I have my whole morning routine every single day that I swear by. And so I can give you my favorite aspect of my morning is spending time with my vision board and my goals. There's many other things that I do. I write down what I'm grateful for, what I'm proud of myself for, and so many other activities. But my favorite ones is spending time with my vision board and my goals. I believe that we've got to get really intimate with our goals. We've got to see our goals every day and keep it with us at the top of our mind. I was just listening to another audio, and I'm not sure how credible this is, but it's 39%. You're 39% more capable of achieving your goals if you write them down. Every single day, I write down my yearly goals for the end of the year, my weekly goals, my daily goals, and spend time with my vision board. And it keeps me on track. It keeps me on pace. I go to work, or I should say, I go to my business, to my office, and I keep at the top of my mind why I'm doing what I'm doing, what actions am I taking, and why am I taking them. And it helps me become very, very intentional.
I think you touched on something that is interesting, is it's goals and a vision board. And I can't tell our listeners that they have to do something or don't have to do something, because I think the one thing that I do like to bring, hopefully, to each and every episode is asking people those questions. And everybody has different things that they do, and everybody has different things that they swear by. So I appreciate you sharing some of that. And I think it's important for our listeners is find what works for you. It could be something technical like an iPad, or it could be something where it's a tablet or your phone where you're doing different things. Or for others, it's something as visual as a vision board, or something as writing a journal, or taking a gratitude walk, or actually writing things that you're grateful for. And I just think it's really interesting that so many people do different things, but the reality is they do a lot of the same things, but they do them what works for each and every one of them. So I would just tell our listeners, or recommend to our listeners, is as you listen to different episodes, if you find something that you'd like to try or something that sounds interesting, is don't just take someone's word for it, give it a chance. So for example, if it's something that I'm trying to do in 2018, which is meditating more, then give it a try, and don't just take my word or take David's word for something, but give it a try and see if it applies to your life.
And can I piggyback on that, Chris?
Of course.
And if I'm going to swear by anything, it's just the morning routine. Like, swear by the morning routine and whatever it is, because I've been doing my Miracle Morning for over a year and a half now, and it does change here and there. I might start meditating more, and other times I might start doing another activity more. But I would swear by is having that morning routine, and like you said, finding out what works within that morning routine that you're going to do consistently to prime yourself, because that's one of the that's one of the big reasons why we need to do the morning routine, is to prime ourselves every single day to make sure that we're showing up in such a huge way for our family, our business, our life, everything.
You mentioned the miracle morning. Is that reference to Hal Elrod?
Yes, it is. Yeah. I call it my miracle mornings.
No, I figured that was. I had the amazing fortune of having Hal on a guest. He was guest number 75, and I actually connected with Hal about a year or so ago, and for those that have listened to the episode, they'll know, but for those listeners that maybe are listening for the first time, I would definitely recommend listening to episode number 75, which touches on Hal's story. And Hal had an amazing story of where he almost, or technically he died for a couple minutes, and then he battled a terrible disease in 2017, and he's on the up and up now, but he swears by the fact that his life completely turned around when he created what he calls the miracle morning. And I want to, again, full and fair disclosure to our listeners, is I'm not in any way saying you have to do exactly what I say or what David says, but so many of our amazing guests have something that they swear by. And it could be something as simple as taking a cold shower, or it could be something as simple as going for a walk. But what I do recommend is for those listeners that are really looking to take their personal life or their business or their family life to a next level, is just look at what other successful people are doing and figure out what works for you. So here's a different question for you. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Yeah, great question. That's just a lot of insight. I'd say Elon Musk. I think he is an absolute genius. And if I could have dinner with him and pick his brain, oh my gosh, what I could learn is just out of this world. He's someone I look up to, and I'm studying more and more and more, and want to find out more and more and more about him. And I think he's definitely someone that I would choose to sit down with.
He's been mentioned probably 15 times or so, and I think it's really interesting because his name's been mentioned a lot. Steve Jobs' name has been mentioned a lot. Jeff Bezos' name has been mentioned quite a bit, and it's not. And the best part about it is it's not because nobody has said, I'd want to interview Jeff Bezos because he's the richest person out there. I want to interview have dinner with Elon Musk, or I want to have dinner with someone like that because I want to talk to them and figure out how they think, why they think. And that's been the coolest part about asking that question, is it's not for selfish reasons of a monetary, or it's not, I want to interview Michael Jordan because he's the most successful basketball player of all time. It's people want to have dinner with them and in essence talk to them and in some ways interview them and kind of pick their brains. So it'd be a really interesting dinner with you and Elon Musk.
Yeah, and what I love that you just said, it doesn't always come down to the monetary of who's made the most, but other reasons. And I wanted to tie that back into just that definition of success you said earlier. Why it's so important, that you talk to the millionaires and the billionaires and people like that, and many times they also don't have a monetary distinction between what's successful and what's not successful.
And that's such something that is so simplistic if you think about it, but it's so complex as well, where it's why are they successful? And Elon Musk talks about how he thinks and how he's thought about his businesses, and when he talked about Tesla and certain things that have come out, it's been amazing when you hear and talk to people about a product where you look at it, but you don't realize that it was years and years of thinking and years of thinking differently. And you look at Apple and what they've done, and you look at Samsung and some of these amazing companies, and it's not the end result, it's what's happened throughout the last 1, 5, 10, 15 plus years.
Yep.
Wanted to ask you if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your really interesting program, which is currently going on. And when this episode goes live, it'll still be going on. So if you wouldn't mind just giving us a brief little snapshot of the program that you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chris, and you're on it as well, which is amazing to have you on it. It's the Rocket Entrepreneur. It's the Rocket Entrepreneur Blast Past Plateau and make more money than ever in 2018. And what we did, it's an online virtual conference, and there's 30 experts that are literally giving their best advice, their best strategies to help entrepreneurs overcome whatever obstacles or blocks that they're facing in their business. We all know what it's like to be banging your head against a wall. And so I figure what better way to bring on 30 experts, which, by the way, they're millionaires. Some of them are millionaires. Some of them are leading thought leaders in the industry of just being an entrepreneur. Some of them are millennial influencer, leading influencers to follow for 2018. So we've got some big names and some amazing messages. And so far, I mean, we've been getting just such great feedback from the audience. So it's going great. And if you guys, by the way, the listeners want to check that out, you can go to the www.therocketentrepreneur.com. So that's www.therocketentrepreneur.com.
Now, a question for you, David. I know that there is a time period of when the program is going and started. What happens if somebody wants to? Is there an opportunity for somebody that maybe gets in late and wants to go back to the beginning, or is it not something that's available?
Yes, that's a great question. So we'll keep this on the hush for just your audience, for everyone listening to No Quit. There will be an encore. So at the end of the event, all the interviews are going to be available for roughly 72 hours. So you can go back and watch any interview that you want to see and check it out and gain that value. Because right now, each one's only available for 72 hours after it's launched, because there's one interview a day launching. So like I said, at the end, which is going to be right around February 13th and 14th, there's going to be an encore where you can watch every single interview and have access to all of them.
That's awesome. Now we're going to change lanes here a little bit into part of our show, which we call the hot seat questions, where we simply ask some pretty straightforward questions. And the only thing that we'd like to ask of you is just spit out the first thing that comes to mind.
Hot seat. Love it. Let's do it.
Awesome. If you had one last meal and you could only choose one thing for that meal, what would you choose?
Steak and mashed potatoes.
Favorite sport?
Wrestling.
All-time favorite team?
49ers.
Favorite movie?
Never Back Down.
Do you have a favorite all-time book?
Right now, I'm going to go with the 10X Rule.
Awesome book. That was my choice when I was on Entrepreneur on Fire. So good choice. You can never go wrong there. Favorite singer or band?
Don't have one.
I've never heard them. What do they play?
That's a great question.
If you were in a foxhole and you could only choose one person to have your back, who would it be?
Have to be my best friend.
Awesome. So, before we let you go, David, I wanted to ask if you have some parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share that. What I want to leave just for the listeners is, in your business, keep going. Times are going to get really hard. People aren't going to believe in you. You're not going to believe in yourself. But picking yourself back up and just keep going, keeping consistent, trusting the process, knowing that all the failures that you're going through are making you the person that you're meant to be to have the success that you want. Because one of my favorite quotes, and it's by Jim Rohn, but it's success is not something that you create, but it's attracted by the person that you become. So never stop growing, never keep going. Find the opportunity to learn in every failure, in every success, because that ultimately in the end is going to allow you to be that person who creates the success, who attracts the success to have that life that you desire.
David, that's some good parting words. And last question we always ask, and I believe it's the easiest question. In addition to therocketentrepreneur.com, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you or follow you, whether it's on social media or directly? Maybe they'd like to speak to you about some of your coaching opportunities or speaking.
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is go to www.davidwdurham.com. My Facebook, my Instagram, all my social media pages are connected to that. You can even email me from my website. Once again, that's www.davidwdurham.com. I've got some free giveaways there as well. So connect with me on www.davidwdurham.com and also sign up for the Rocket Entrepreneur.
I would definitely recommend people to sign up for the Rocket Entrepreneur. And because this is going live after the program has already started, definitely the opportunity to watch the encore after might be exciting as well, in case some people have missed some of the earlier episodes. So, David, I want to say a very special thank you to you. I've enjoyed the opportunity that you jumped on our show today, but more importantly, I've enjoyed the fact that we've gotten to become friends over the last few months, and I've seen some of your progress already over the last couple months. I think what you're doing with the Rocket Entrepreneur is really amazing, and one thing I believe you did mention, but I just want to throw it out there also, is it is 100% free. And as David mentioned, is each video goes live for 72 hours. So if a video goes live, let's say you have a crazy busy day at work, You can listen or watch the video at night at your own time, which is pretty unique. And again, it's free, and I would highly recommend our listeners to check out therocketentrepreneur.com. So David, thank you so much, and I wish you continued success, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Chris, love this show so much. Love what you're doing here. So I appreciate the opportunity to bring me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to episode number 90. David's passion and his youthful attitude is very exciting and invigorating. David spoke about his vision board and how focused he is with looking at, writing down, and becoming very intimate with his goals. David is currently in the middle of an online coaching course where he is bringing value to new businesses that are under 5 years in existence. He found his niche in helping those businesses not only thrive, but blast past their current plateau. David is all about action, taking massive amounts of action. So my question for you is very simple. What have you thought about or only dreamt about? Why haven't you taken any action? Take a hard look in the self-accountability mirror and decide to take action today. Move forward and keep going as you go for your greatness. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.